Hello, it is good to see you again, friends of Al-Kharid, and welcome to the Friends of Al-Kharid podcast number 15. This is the place where we talk about all things Chronicle related, so we're going over some competitive stuff, the ladder. We've got a fun little new feature today brought by Interjection, so that'll be a fun test.
Should we announce it now, or should we leave it?
We'll
as a surprise
wait
later
until
on?
we get there.
All right.
But yeah, as always, joining me, Glenn. You're looking less like a geography teacher today. Welcome back.
I'm just never going to wear those glasses again. Cheers, Ryan. As usual, we've got alongside us as well, Interjection.
Hello there. Yes, my name's Interjection. Do I get to do the intro?
Yes, you can do it. It's your
Should
job
I stop
now.
asking? This is my last time
it's your
asking.
job.
Yeah, it's your job.
All
now.
right. I'm today, I guess, as the host. I'm presenting. Mod Markaza. Hello, how are you doing? We've got him on as a guest, and
Hello.
we're really glad to have him here. Another J Mod working at Jagex, of course. So good to have you.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. Looking forward to it.
Indeed. So I guess why don't we get started with Markaza? What do you do? That sounds really insulting, but
Yeah.
like, what is your job at
You're not the
Jagex?
first person to ask today.
Yeah,
So,
some people.
my job is I'm the balance and economy designer on Chronicle. So it involves all aspects of card design, card balance, and also working on things like the soft currency economy, rewards, dungeoneering.
Yeah.
Anything that can be balanced or a number that can be adjusted in a game, I'm part of that
I
team
remember.
that does that design work.
I remember quite a while ago, I think, was it during the Christmas break? So certainly around that kind of time. That's when the job was being advertised on the Jagex website. And, well, now you're the guy who filled it. But originally that was just game economy designer, right? At what point did you take on doing balance and stuff like that?
It was. I started off actually doing the free-to-play soft currency economy because those people who were on, I think it was on closed beta, there was the 4-gem economy
Mhm.
Oh, I remember
Yes,
that.
I remember that.
That was fun.
that just wasn't coming together, and so that was kind of the job for the first 2 months, was just put something in place that worked and kind of set us up for open beta. But part of designing a card game economy is card rarity, and pack drop rates and appropriate card design on rarity. So quite quickly the job transitioned over once the economy was set up to more looking at card design, and as we added new cards, getting those rarities right, balancing right, and then it just from there sort of sat on the balancing team right away, and it just moved over. And now, because the economy is largely in place, more of my job is card design than economy design, but still responsible for both. That's it. That was the transition, really.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. I guess recently then you felt that the game had scope for a daily reward system. Are we coming on to that later? I'm not sure.
We
Yeah,
touch
I mean, that
on it
wasn't
later.
something.
We'll touch on that later.
Okay. All right. Well, that's that. Nice.
Yeah, welcome.
It's made my job very easy.
Welcome to the podcast, and we'll jump into, because we love jumping into things on this podcast. We're going to go into the ladder and how it currently sits, which is makes for some interesting
Looking
reading.
forward to this one.
Yeah, well, I'll go through top 10. We have Master of Mind at number 1, Cork Slap Jones number 2, Interjection,
Very well said. Very
Selly,
well said.
Anthony, Glenn, Tom the Bomb, Duplicitous, Drork Cab, and Psychopath. And I'll start with, I actually know some of these names, guys. Oh my god.
We're getting towards the second half of the season, and as we expected, there's more well-known names in there.
Mhm.
Me and Interjection got in there last couple of days. I know Freeb's just outside the top 10. So yeah, I think Unforgiven. Whereabouts is Unforgiven? Is he close yet?
I have no idea.
He's
But
meandering
it's
his way
interesting
through.
he's bringing up, right? Like, he's been top 10 twice in a row, I believe, now.
Yeah.
And will he make it again? We'll see. But you say it as if, like, you don't know any of these people, Ryan, outside of me and Glenn. I don't think that's very fair to say anymore.
This week I
These
do.
guys are-
This week I do.
Okay,
Is the
who
thing.
are those people, then?
So the people that are in the league mainly are Selly, Anthony, Duplicitous, and Psychopath. And I've met all of them on ladder several times. I know they're all good players, and I think I've played Master of Mind a couple of times, and Tom the Bomb, obviously, he's been there and thereabout for a long time now. So the only names really are Cork Slap Jones and Drork Cab, who
I have no idea who
never
they
seen.
are, and have never played them.
No.
Yeah, I haven't played. I know because I'm rank 3, right? I actually went from rank 8 to rank 3 in one win.
What?
Mind you, that was up against quite a high diamond guy, so I imagine his elo was perhaps above average. So that's why that happened. But what that really highlights is that there's a big kind of gap. Well, everyone's bunched up very close in terms of their elo. You can jump over them very, very quickly. So it's going to be interesting how that sort of shapes out over the course of the remainder of the season. I think we're just over halfway through now.
12 days, 14 hours left.
Okay, so you're definitely more than halfway through. The only people I haven't really heard of, I haven't played Master of Mind and Cork Slap Jones, but I know they've been up there for a while. So definitely looking forward to seeing how it pans out. But Grief Linzer is going to disappear pretty soon, and I think that might shake up how some of these people play the game.
Glenn.
Yeah, particularly Glenn.
I am not a one-deck wonder. I got to Diamond with Raptor, so...
I know, you've got 12 different Linzer decks now, yeah. Thanks for the 2 extra slots.
So, Markaza, whereabouts are you at the minute? How are you finding ranked?
To be honest, most of this month I've been playing test environments and just testing other stuff, so I haven't actually been live very much, although today was all day playing some different decks and just trying out some different legends, and I'll sort of go into why a bit later because it sort of sits in part of other discussions I know we're going to have. But when I'm so now sitting in sort of low gold, just because I was just trying to kind of burn through silver and using aggro. In fact, using your deck Interjection that I saw on stream the other night, which was an aggro Venescula with a couple of Grim Spikes and stuff like that. Which was
Speaking of which, there was a question posted on the Reddit thread that I posted earlier from Psychopath, specifically about that aggro Venescula deck because it's such a popular deck at the moment, all the way right to the very top. Because there's going to be changes to Grief Linzer, there's going to be changes to Sustain, but this deck really is not getting touched at all.
Yeah. So
and it's already the strongest.
Can I outline this, right? So recently, I don't know why nobody's noticed this, but a lot of the top 10 players at the moment, before I got into Diamond, whilst I was still Plat, were running aggro Venescula, and I didn't think it was going to be like that good. Like originally I ran an aggro Venescula and had quite a lot of success with it last season, but I did not run Alpha Werewolf, I did not run Gorge, I did not run any cards that had Mortal written on them, because I thought they just weren't good enough. I felt like you weren't always, like for example Alpha Werewolf, a lot of the time for me just tends to be take 8 damage, deal 8 damage, which is not that good. Like I mean it's a lot of damage, yeah, but like in the aggro mirror, it's like a net change of 0 really. Like you're both losing 8, and that's not really anything to jump. And I felt like Firewatch was just better. But anyway, the point I'm getting to is now there's all the this deck is explosive. It's like this glass cannon deck that is very, very powerful. Like I feel like the reason that is because against other aggro decks, it has Gorge and it has Firewatch, so it's got that sustain, it can play it slowly.
Yeah.
But against the decks where you need more damage to kill them more quickly, like those AP stacking decks that want to gain, all the sustain stuff, you don't care about your health. You can just go Sergeant Grim Spike for 6 damage on slot 1, put yourself right into Mortal, go Darox, and then, I don't know, KGP Agent, and then slam Alpha Werewolves and stuff. Like, you can take 16 off Alpha Werewolves against those, because they don't really care about your health too much. And I feel like it's got that flexibility to do both. It's got extra damage when it needs it, and it's reasonably good against aggro with healing as well. And I feel like at the moment it sits in a very, very strong place. And Glenn was mentioning all these sustain changes. Like I feel like that's only going to exacerbate the problem with with aggro Venescula currently. And I think it was overlooked until very recently. I think nobody realised how strong that was. And
it's only the last week and a half that it's really been popular.
So what was the question you were asking, Glenn, just to refresh everyone's memory?
Are they not afraid?
We're not afraid that this Venescula is going to be dominating to a point where the game's not fun anymore.
I mean, I'm always afraid that stuff's going to go wrong. But I think there's 2 things, and I played this deck a lot today, and there's 2 areas where I think it's really strong. I think the keyword steal hides that mechanic. So, like if that card was written, deal 4 damage, gain 4 health, like for Gorge or something, or what was I thinking of, Haunted Leech, the bigger one. That the strength of that is really transparent. The slot efficiency on that is really good. So I think that steal is strong, and I think it needs to be looked at wherever it's used. So cards like Firewatch, I think, are great. Cards like Gorge, I think, are still good. Because even if you're not mortal on Gorge, I think it's still Steel 4, isn't it? At the top of my head, yeah, it is. Three. It's still a lot. Deal 3 damage, gain 3 health on 4 gold isn't dreadful. It's not great, but it's not dreadful because it's got so much going on for it. So the steel aspect and the fact that you're doing sustain and damage in the same slot is really good. But I think one of the things I noticed about it today really strongly was, and this is something that balance-wise I'm interested in generally, is we have a few shells in the game that are built from general pool cards.
Yeah.
And I think part of why Aggro Venescular is really strong is that you can pick up 2 gold off your Bergdorot Citizen, and then Chapter 2 can be Cannoneer, Barker-Toad.
Yeah.
Which is so you've got that damage spike sitting in a deck that also will do sustained tick-along damage. And back when we first went live after Open Beta, I ran through Silver very, very quickly with just a Stealing Venescular deck with none of that kind of aggro shell in it. And I think from my point of view, there's 2 things in that deck that needs to be kept an eye on. One is the kind of the core aggro shell, and the second is the steel. But why I'm not panicking about aggro Venescular, on the flip side, is that aggro shell goes into everything.
Yeah.
So you could put that kind of Troll Chucker, Toad, Cannoneer, and a couple of Scorpions and Crassians for draw. You can drop that into all of the factions. So if Venescular does that particularly well, you might be able to make an Ozan aggro deck built on that shell with Ketzeks and other stuff that he can do that's just quicker and can just out damage the rate that it heals and just punish anyone who gets greedy on turn 1, something like that. So I think it's going to be really strong. I think that the protection it has currently is that shell, once aggro gets stronger, just moves into everything. I think you could run that aggro shell in Raptor and actually get pretty good results up to a reasonable level, just because it's so strong. I think you probably could with assaults, with Scorpions, maybe with cannons to mix in some burst damage as well. I think there's room to experiment. So for me, from a balancing point of view, I'm interested in Rowdy Cannoneer in particular as a card that's probably doing too much. Because whilst I've got no problem with Cannoneer running in all aggro decks, being able to run Barker-Toad 2 is a bit much outside of like a Pirate Cannonball synergy deck. So that's a card that we're definitely looking at.
So you think perhaps Barker-Toad needs to be looked at? I feel like that's the strong card there in the Rowdy Cannoneer Barker-Toad combo. But it's interesting that you mention Raptor, because I was trying to build like an aggro Raptor the other day, and you know that shell you mentioned where you just put the Troll Chuckers, the Scorpions, all of those things in. I feel like Venescular is particularly powerful because she has more supporting like ways to get up to 3 base attack. You've got Double Worthy Opponent, which is that gets you there really quickly, and in a world where Kaizaj is not quite as good as it used to be, that's really, really valuable. But also she just has more cards that fit that 3 base theme. Like Troll Chucker is obviously a great example, but also Werewolf Rebel and Haunted Leech and kind of Afflicted is 4, but like those cards are all really, really powerful, and they're all 3 health-ish kind of things as well, which other classes don't have. I feel like Raptor doesn't quite have all of those 3 health things, but I tried to build the Raptor aggro in such a way that it had that shell in it, but also ran all of his lots of his sustain cards, so like Rock Crabs, Fledglings, Anticipation, even like kind of like an aggro and heals in the same deck to kind of which I thought would be really good against aggro Venescular. And it was reasonably okay. I feel like her Afflicted just kept out-healing me because she'd heal ridiculous amounts off my Fledglings or my Krasin or whatever it was. Like, basically everything in the deck that has a simple amount of health. But yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned the aggro Raptor deck. But I think Venescular just over the top because she has more things to do on 3 base. Yeah, and completely. Also has more ways to get to 3 base.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that like an aggro Raptor is going to be top tier. But it's more that you can put that shell into anything with meaningful results is more my concern. I think Venescular probably will still be good. I think that an aggro Ozan, if you've got that core shell in it, and then you throw Desert Snakes and Safe Spot Ketzek and that sort of stuff into it, just the old aggro Zan I think will work really nicely. For me, that's what I don't like. I think that aggro Venescular takes a big hit if you can't run Barker-Toads because you just can't burst out Raptors or like strong sustain decks. I think that deck has more trouble against like a Calfight Morvran, for example, if you can't get those kind of that big bursty chapter. And I think it's from my point of view, it's Cannoneer that's doing too much.
Yeah.
But you know that's something that we're exploring. I think that Cannoneer hand griefing and damage and setting up your Barker-Toad is a bit rich. But
okay, you think the issue is like there's just this shell here, and that fits into a lot of aggro decks. Yeah, I think that's absolutely a way. But that's been what's been going on ladder, I suppose. Aggro Venescula.
Aggro Venescula took over.
Yeah, that's been what's present. So I guess that's that's what we're highlighting in this section with the ladder section here.
Yeah, completely. And the strength of Aggro Venescular is there. But like I say, with the general nerf to all sustain, I think that you're going to see more aggro decks and more aggro stuff being tried.
Yeah,
and I think that the sometime weakness of that Venescular deck, if you don't see the Barkatoads, is that it's not that fast. And I think that there will be faster versions of it, but we'll see.
Yeah,
and you know, always, if it's not working, open to change. But that's kind of how I'm framing it at the moment.
Yeah, I feel like Venescular would slow down a lot if she couldn't worthy opponent. Like if like she had to run other ways to get her base attack up. Maybe like worthy opponent could cost 1 or something, just something to slow her down on chapter 1. Like that's all I'm thinking. But what's coming up next, Ryan? So
we'll jump into competitive in a second, but I just want to bring up the whole aggro Venescular thing has took over because not that many people are trying to run counters to it. I know, Glenn, you tried and you weren't really successful.
Yeah, I tried too.
Me and Interjection spent
like you're two of the yeah. You play the most games, so you're probably expected to have tried it.
I couldn't find anything that could consistently do well against her and beat other
I think
decks.
more people need
that's the
to.
problem. That's the problem. If you could just purely trying to build a deck to beat Venescular, I found honestly the best deck that did that was Grief Linzer.
Obviously.
And even then, that was only a 50-50 matchup. Yeah. And I always seemed to feel like I was one step behind with the healing.
In the end, I chucked fledglings in the deck, and it was a lot better than before.
Yeah, potentially that I didn't put an extra fledgling in, but then obviously with the nurse to Linzer coming in, then that deck is obviously going to be a lot weaker, and it's going to swing the match even further. But then all the other decks that I tried against this, because I was experimenting through Plat, because everyone else seemed to be running it, so I thought it was a good time to test things. So then every other deck I tried had a losing rate against Venescular, but then also did worse against any other deck that I came up against.
Right.
So that just seems it just doesn't seem like there's any obvious counter to
it's just a strong deck right now.
It
just
very,
does
very
good
strong
against everything.
But I think
even that Raptor deck I mentioned that's got lots of damage in it, and then all the empty slots are filled up by healing cards. So in theory, this is we're just going off life total, right? I'm trying to heal with the Rock Crabs, the Anticipations, the Fledglings, and deal damage to you with Troll Chuckers, Rowdy Cannoneer, Barkatoes. It's just a health race, and even that was close. It just shouldn't be that close, because Afflicted is just if he didn't randomly afflict my Fledgling for 8 life plus 2, I'd be fine. But 10 life on a 4 health creature, and that seems to hit so consistently. Afflicted just pisses me off.
Never have guessed. Afflicted's a card I think we can talk about in a little bit time. I think it's a card most of us acknowledge probably needs the +4 treatment, but we'll get into that. But yeah, we'll talk about the competitive section of the Chronicle community, I guess. And first of all, we're going to start off with the Chronicle Weekly Cup number 2. So firstly, we're going to go over the Weekly Cup number 1. I know there was quite a few people in the cup. And it was quite well. It ran quite well. It was, I don't think there was a single hitch. Everyone got into their games quickly. Matches were reported. It just seemed to go over really, really well. And I know the final was between Musha and X-Mapatch, who we see at the top of the ladder quite a lot.
I think that's a testament to how skill intensive the game can be. The fact that Musha and X-Mac are very good players. Musha finished rank 1 in season 1. And X-Mapac is always at the top of the ladder. And there were lots of good players entering that, but I think it feels like because this was the outcome, that the game is in a good spot for thinking about the decks you're going to bring and playing the decks. And I just think there is just because this keeps happening, good players keep winning tournaments.
Yeah, that's the point. If the same names end up the top of ladder, do well in the cups, then it shows that the game is more skill based rather than luck based, which is good.
Exactly, I completely agree. But yeah, that's going to be the Weekly Cup number 2 is happening on Sunday, I believe. As it's going to be every Sunday, isn't it? That's the plan at the minute. Yeah. So go and sign up.
The idea of a weekly live format, where it all happens in one day. It just feels exciting, to be involved in that if you've got the day off.
I'll be in on this one. I was playing cricket last week, but I'm in.
Sadly, I won't. I'll be working on Sunday. I've recently just gotten a job, or just resumed my job from last summer, actually. But yeah, so sadly, I won't be able to compete. But I'm glad it's going on, and I'm looking forward to seeing the games from it.
Yeah, Glenn, you can't run 3 Grief Linzer decks, so
yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Probably bow out. Yeah, it'd be nice to see a few of the mods. I know there's a like a unspoken policy there that they probably shouldn't enter them, but it'd be nice to see some of the mods enter some of these cups and prove that if they're actually any good at the game.
I think it's why we don't turn up, frankly.
Yeah, but when you work on the game all day, like playing it, playing it when you get back as well might be a bit much.
That's true.
There's a quote that's either about Richard Garfield or from Richard Garfield where he said the best basketball player ever didn't invent basketball, and I kind of feel the same way about Chronicle.
I think that's very relevant. But yeah, the other side of the competitive scene, the more slowed down, the more prolonged aspect is going to be the RS Chronicle League we're going to come on to now. And this week we're just going to be talking about the Open Division because, again, everyone's waiting for balances, so the top tier aren't exactly being played at a significant rate. Tyflicky has got a few games in, so credit to him. But we can see the Open Division on screen. Psychopat at the top, Phalanx are second, Unparalleled, Square Vinyl, the top rat.
One moment. You're pronouncing Psychopat, right? It's actually Psygo Clown.
But yeah, and then Matt P4, Jagex employee yet again, he's still up there. Dankest Memes and Forest King 10. And I think all of these names are quite well known to most of us.
Mark, do you know who this Matt P4 is?
I do, yeah.
Work?
I play cricket with Matt, on and off.
Oh, you play cricket? Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. Glenn's got a new best friend.
Right, I'll be back in half an hour when they're done. Glenn talks forever about cricket.
Yes, that is true.
I won't provoke him any further. No, I saw Matt the other day and we were talking about 1AP RyanN just before the RyanN nerf, and he was, I don't want to say begging that we don't change it. But, it was unseemly.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
But no, he's very good, and he really obviously clearly knows the game.
Yeah, saw him in my stream during the working hours of Jagex, as well as Genesis and a few other.
He plays all day. Plays all day.
Yeah, I heard he's a big fan.
I think he had my stream muted though, because I mentioned his name a few times. He just didn't reply, or maybe I don't know. But yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good.
Yeah, these top guys are doing a fantastic job getting their games sorted. I mean, I suppose we say it now, Glenn. We're extending the league for another week because of these impending balance changes. It's basically stopped everyone playing.
No one's played a game. I haven't played a single game, largely because I just don't. I feel like I'll do better once everything's changed, because I feel like good players will be able to adapt very quickly and know like what's going to be good, what's not. And maybe they won't. Maybe they get caught out. But I also don't want to play against Weapon Linzer in match 1 and.
Well, it'll be Grief Linzer, Aggro Venescular, Hopes on, GG.
Yeah, like I want something fresh and funky, and I feel like that's when you should start the league, when everything's different, and then
it was too late.
Appear as the league goes on. Yeah, I know.
We had no idea that this was coming.
I don't even think balance changes were announced when you said the league was starting. And but like it's still going to be a fresh start, and I'm pretty sure everyone's going to get their games done quickly. I know I will. So really looking forward to when that starts. It's going to be so fresh. You're going to see like games, the first couple of matches being played. Maybe the decks won't be that great. But then as the season goes on, all of the refinements will come in, and it's going to be really fun to watch people stream what they've come up with, and talk about, I'm going to open with this deck, I'm going to close with this deck, I'm going to play these two in between. I really like that about Chronicle, and I'm
trying to read your opponent. He's going to play this, so I have to bring this deck out.
Cast these games, hopefully.
I know Tyflicky is as well. Tyflicky said he wants to cast a few of them, so if 2 people stream, send them both to him or whatever, and he'll cast them. But I'm excited to be able to cast some of these as well.
I think that's one of the more interesting parts about Chronicle, actually, is a tournament kind of mode where you like have to pick like your decks, like the league you're running. Like ladder is like, oh, I'm just going to run this best of 1, and you keep playing your same deck over and over. When they can't queue up with some deck, like some aggro deck, they've used their aggro decks. You're like, oh well now I can bring out Goldzan, or now I can bring out this funky Armor Raptor, or now I can do. Like there's just new things come up that would normally be playable or very good on ladder. I think it's really, really great. I think if you haven't gotten involved with this, look out for when this opens again. Chronicle is another experience when you play it like a tournament.
It's really good fun. Like, it's amazing that you see in the league. There's a lot of decks that on ladder are terrible, but in the league they win.
Yeah.
Because of the surprise factor, because your opponent can't run a particular deck that they're really strong on because they've already won one game with it.
Or maybe they take in an Al-Kharid warrior unexpectedly or something they wouldn't normally do. Like, stuff like that. It's just, that's the, you know.
The more messed up your deck in this competitive scenario, the more chance it probably has of winning. That's basically what it boils down to. If you're not expecting this, like, what do you think? Oh my, it's Weapon Linzer, so he's going to play X, Y, Z, and I can counter it in this way, and then out of nowhere he plays, like, Weapon Master Char, and now he's on 50 million base attack, and you don't know what's going on with your life anymore.
Weapon Master Char.
That's an insane combo. But yeah, that's the sort of stuff that will win you games in this league, because God knows, like, sometimes you're playing and you're like, I have no idea what's going to happen here. This is just a mess.
So the games that I hate playing are the ones where I can't read my opponent. Like, it doesn't happen very often on the ladder. Like, every now and again it does. Like, when you start out and you're going through silver and gold, sometimes you just think, what the hell are you doing? Like, and then it'll pull out this random play. You think, how can I counter that?
Like, oh, now I see what you're doing.
Too late, I'm dead. But yeah, Banzai says it's really stressful, and it is. I can attest to that. Playing my open division games especially, they were rough a couple of seasons ago, because best of 3, you lose the first one, concentration mode, bang for the next 2 games because you have to win them both.
So what league are we looking at?
This is the Open. This is the Open, yeah.
Okay.
And there's
have
been
games been played for the other ones?
There's been 5 in division 7 in both the premiers. So they'll be getting a bigger update on Sunday, I'd imagine, on our Sunday roundup. But yeah, that concludes everything really for competitive at the minute. I don't think there's much more going on in terms of cups or leagues. So yeah, we can go on to the community spotlight. And Glenn's helped me pick out 3 good pieces of content that we've seen around the community this week. And I think we've got a good 3 this week. I'm not saying the other ones weren't, but these are I enjoy all of these massively.
Yeah, same.
So we start off with praise from YouTube. He's made probably my favourite Chronicle video so far. It's absolutely hilarious, and it's how to get 12 wins with RyanN, as it's shown on the screen. And let's just say he's 11-0 to start off the video, and his 12 games doesn't quite go to plan. But yeah, it's
a very, 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 very well played and well adapted, shall we say?
Yeah, to say the least. But yeah, he makes more videos, and he's always like this is the first video I've seen from him, and I think he deserves more credit for such a good video. I found it on Reddit, and I was just chuckling to myself all day from thinking about that video. It was just so dumb. It was so good, but so dumb. So, and we can always do with more content creators, so having someone new to feature is always a good thing, indeed. And then we're going to move on to something not visual in terms of a video. Glenn, what's the second piece?
It's actually a blog post from Musher. Obviously, I think he preferred to make videos, etc., but he's on a laptop, so struggles. So he's written down his thoughts on the balancing patch and the effect that he thinks it will have on the game.
I saw this too. He sent it to me yesterday before he posted it, and I read through it, and I think just the way he presented his ideas was really nice. It was clear and concise. Everything was accurate, and I think he's got a very good grasp on what's going to happen. And I think it's definitely worth reading if you're interested in sort of speculating on that kind of thing. Definitely good.
And the strategy salad.
I read that. It's very good.
Strategy salad is one of the best titles for a blog I've ever seen.
I didn't even know.
Finally, though, the final clip.
This is the best one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Got it. Interjection. Introduce it.
Mod Merchant live to 14,000 people on the Gamescom Twitch, playing against Silver AI. Can you wonder what on earth might happen? Start with the good old Wizard Mind Bomb, where we draw only 1 support, or 2, something like that.
1 support.
Into Earth Blast, and then what happened?
And then meanwhile the AI got a weapon, and then snapshotted.
He got absolutely ruined by Silver AI yet again. But that's always worth a watch, and it was great.
The best thing was, like, the chat genuinely, there were some people in that Twitch chat going, "Oh, Silver AI yet again." Like, there were people there who knew this stuff.
No, exactly.
I think which shows like the reach the game is having is far-ranging, unless it was just some guy and his mates.
The link I've posted is timestamped to that game, so you haven't got to go searching for it.
And it is.
But like on a side note, I do think Merchant does a really good job there.
Yeah,
explaining the
that's what I was
game.
going to say. Yeah. It was great to see the game on such a platform, and Merchant did a very good job of presenting it. And a shame he lost, but I suppose that shows the game kind of knows what it's doing.
Also, wait, who programs the AI? Do you know?
It's Mod Max and Mod Hammers both do it.
To be fair, like Merchant had a terrible deck. He was running like basic RyanN or something, so and it needs changing anyway because Earth Blast is just garbage in that deck. It was not like Earth Blast wasn't designed to be in that deck when it was designed to be in that deck, but like now it does something different. So like it's hard to like I've experienced that. It can be hard to beat Silver AI with a bad deck.
But yeah, we found it especially humiliating in front of 14,000 people.
How did that go down in the office? Because I'm guessing people were watching.
He certainly had a lot of stuff stuck to his computer when he arrived into work.
That's fantastic.
Wonderful.
But yeah, that's what we have from the community this week. We're always looking for more content to feature on the podcast every week. So if you put out a video and you want to make sure I see it, DM me it, or Glenn. He'll also take exceptions. And we'll, if we think it's actually good.
However, don't read my personal messages.
Yeah, Interjection's useless, so don't bother sending it to him. But yeah, if we think it's good enough, and it probably will be, we'll make sure we feature on the podcast.
Next up, though,
yeah.
I believe we have the the crazy Chronicle something. I needed a word for quiz that McGram would see, but
Quiz.
I couldn't think of one, and I couldn't be bothered to search up synonyms. I'm not even sure if there is one in English, but we do have a quiz today where I will be asking these three guys. I assume you all want to take part, firstly.
Yes.
Yeah, go on then.
All right, it's nothing too hard. It's just it's actually quite easy quiz, but can you do it under pressure is the question. So I'm gonna need some help from Ryan. I think I'll ask you questions first.
Okay.
Right. And
I'll make note of the score for Ryan.
Yeah, Glenn, can you keep track of his score? Because I can't do all of these things all at once. Now,
Yeah.
Now, Ryan, you have exactly 1 minute in this first round. All of you will have a go at this first round, and then there's a second round. And finally, there is a third and final round. Right, so
I'm
round number
nervous.
1.
Nice spelling on the stream, by the way, Ryan.
Crazy
fine.
Chronicle Quiz. Oh! I love it. The quiz. Oh, you got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so in this round, you will have 1 minute to answer as many questions as possible. Each question is worth 1 point. If you don't want to or can't answer a question, then you can say pass to move on to the next question, and you will not score a point for that question.
I'm ready.
All right.
Oh, man.
Are you ready?
I'm terrified, but yeah, I'm ready.
You have 1 minute to answer as many questions as you can, starting in starting when I start reading.
Yeah, that's fine. I trust you.
All right. So, name a creature with 2/3 stats.
Skeletal Peon.
Correct. What card draws 2 goblins?
Stinky Ears.
Correct. If you add the attack and durability of the Sergeant Slimetoes weapon together, what number do you get?
5.
Who's Glenn's animated lover?
RyanN.
What card rarity is Ice Troll?
Ruby.
Correct. What Calphite Queen adds what to your hand when killed?
Calphite Guardian.
Correct. In RuneScape, there are different coloured party hats. What colour is the party hat in Chronicle?
Red.
Correct. How much health does Anti-Fire Potion reward?
2.
Correct. Name 3 supports that cost 8 gold.
Oh my god. Ancient Spellbook, Lunar Spellbook, and Highwayman.
Correct. What card removes 3 health from you and 5 health from your rival?
Desert Snake.
Correct. What is the maximum number of wins you can achieve in Dungeoneering?
12.
Correct. And your time is up.
All
right.
I can breathe.
All right. Well done. I lost count of
11.
11. Nice. That's actually quite high. All right. We piloted this with Unforgiven, and he does not. We might run out of questions. I hope.
Just repeat one. They won't notice.
All right.
I can
I
count.
think you got some easy ones.
Do you want to go Markaza next?
Go on then.
All right. Markaza. Who's keeping track of?
I'll do
Ready
it.
for me to shame myself. On a Twitch chat.
I'll keep track.
So
I'll keep track.
So I'm sure you'll do fine. Right, so Ryan got 12, yeah?
11.
11. You should have went with it. Yeah, I got it. All right. Are you ready, Markaza?
Go on then.
Okay. I will start. Your time will start when I ask your first question. All right. Name a beast that gives a weapon reward.
Pass.
Okay.
Good
What
start.
creature has the lowest combined attack and health stats in the game?
It's either Traitorous Imp or Mischievous Imp, isn't it?
Incorrect. It's Bunny. The card
Of course it's Bunny.
The card Tenebra reads steal up to 8 watt from your rival. Correct. Is penguin sheep a mammal or a bird?
It's 2 penguins, so that would be 2 birds.
Correct. Does Dr. Fenkenstrain's card art depicts him holding a jar? What is in the jar?
Green liquid and maybe a brain in the green liquid?
Correct, a brain. What RuneScape quest is the Color Neuromancer from?
Oh, I mean, pass.
It's Recipe for Disaster. What is the highest attack value on any single card currently?
Highest attack value?
Yep.
Oh no, if it's not Jad,
It is Jad, correct.
Yeah, we go.
Alright,
I wouldn't
time's
have
up.
got many of them.
No,
I'm not gonna lie.
the RuneScape related one is over my
That was
head.
unfair.
Oh,
Yeah, like, I felt like, okay, there's... I'm not even sure if any of them will get that one. It was in there, yeah.
What's the beast with the weapon?
You
Dungeon
could have answered
Spider.
Giant Spider,
Giant Spider.
Ukthanki, or Spider.
The spiders are... Okay.
Like, you know it, like, you definitely know it, of course, but then when you're like, oh god, what is it? And then you don't know what to say, like, I know, like, yeah. Like, that's the thing of a quiz, right? You know all
How
these
much
answers, but...
Lava Dragon's got 15 as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, you could have said Jad or Lava Dragon. You could have said 15 as well.
Would you have accepted a shugged behemoth?
No, I would not have accepted a...
So hang on, let's go with Dr. Frankenstein, Shug Bell. Whoa.
What
No, that doesn't work.
What did Markaza get?
I counted 4.
Or
Oh.
Don't worry, there's more time to catch up. Alright, so Glenn, you're up next.
If Glenn doesn't get 04, I'm going to be disappointed.
Oh, that would be good. Okay. Are you ready? Your time starts when I start asking questions, Glenn. Are you ready?
ready.
Okay. What is the sum of all the numbers that appear on Ukthanki?
8.
Incorrect. 12. What card reads discard all cards from both players and draw 5 cards?
Balance Elemental.
Correct. How do you spell Kriara?
Kree apostrophe ARRA.
Correct. Name a raptor card that rewards 2 gold.
Fight Cauldron.
Correct. Name the only orc card in the game.
Revenant Orc.
Correct. Name an undead card that rewards 4 armor.
Pass.
Armored zombie. What raptor card draws 1 potion?
Chaos Druid.
Incorrect. It's not a raptor card. It's Revenant Dark Beast. Name the Linza support that deals damage to your rival based on your weapon durability.
Hurl Weapon.
Correct. What does the Ozan card Smuggler steal?
5 armor.
Incorrect. 3 weapon attack. What 4 cards do you get from the Lunar Spellbook?
Vengeance,
Oh,
Boost,
you can
Group
answer
Heal. What? And Barrow Power.
Yeah.
Okay, that's 1 point.
6. Glenn comes out with 6.
That's not too bad. Unforgiven scored 9, so I feel like these aren't too bad.
I can't believe I've mixed up Smuggler and Heist.
And I can't believe you even tried to answer the thank you one. That was like the most ridiculous question.
Yeah, no, but I was trying to think, what is it?
What? It's a 1/4, drops a 2/1 weapon and 4 health.
I missed the 4 health, that was it.
The 4 health, was it? Okay. Yeah, you got the,
Did
you
everything
get...
else but missed the 4 health.
I got 11 when I answered that question, but it's actually 12, because I forgot the 1 durability on the 2/1 weapon. Okay, so...
That is stressful.
Glenn gets 6 points.
Yeah.
Okay. I think next we're going to do the countdown style round. Now we can't use the countdown timer from the popular British television show Countdown.
We'll get copyright straight away.
Copyright strike. So just imagine it's there. I'll go find it on YouTube. All right. So in this round, all of you will answer simultaneously. You have so in Countdown, for those that don't know, on the show the contestants pick some letters and some vowels and consonants, these things, and then they have to create the longest word possible out of the combination of letters, right?
Mm-hmm.
In this version of Countdown, we're not going to pick any cards because that requires production value. So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to ask you a question, and whoever gets the best answer will score 3 additional points. The second best answer will score 2 points, and the final will score 1, right? Now, when I say the best answer, that will make sense in the context of the question. There'll be objectively better answers, right? So you're going to have 30 seconds to answer these, because that's how long in countdown you have to do that. Let me set that on my timer. The first question, all of you, as soon as I say go, start to answer the question. I'll start the timer once I've read the question out once.
What, do we just start talking?
No. You think in your head. Right?
Okay.
Or you can get a notepad document up, whatever you want to do, some paper.
Just remember your
come
answer.
Up, say, well, basically what I'm going to do is assume this is chapter 1 in the game. The rival is not going to play any cards, and you have to come up with a combination of 4 cards that will achieve the best result of what I'm asking you to do, okay?
Okay.
Alright. So, the first question is, what is the tankiest you can become in 1 chapter? In other words, what is the highest combined health and armor total you can think of in 4 cards on chapter 1? Time starts now.
Okay, this is actually a lot more
Please don't
difficult.
look at the chat either.
No, this is a lot more difficult than I was expecting.
I'm done.
Okay.
I've got one.
Do. We've got 16 seconds.
Do we have to say our total result before we actually say how we did it?
I haven't calculated mine, so...
Alright then, so Ryan, what was your fort combination?
Mine's bad. Mine's really bad.
Right, please don't change your answer, right? Like, just be honest here, right? We're gonna start with Ryan. So what was your combo?
I think mine's really bad. Okay. Fight Cauldron, Armored Zombie, Sour Brew is what I went with. Is Fight Cauldron the one I think it is?
So Fight Cauldron takes 8, so you've taken 16,
Plus
and you
14.
gain 14 armor. You gain 4 armor, and you healed for 18. So
I'm back up to full health, basically.
Yeah, so
you
I lost 1 armor as well, yeah.
Off the armored zombie.
Armored zombie, yeah.
But yeah, I'm still back to full health.
So that was 17, yeah?
I'm definitely catching you up this round.
I've definitely beaten that.
I had no idea.
Right, that was not too bad. All right. We go to Glenn. What was your answer?
60 effective health.
Oh baby, how did you do that?
Shug, prep, strength potion, court beast.
All right, Shug, prep. How much gold is that?
Prep is 8. That's 8 gold. 7 gold from the court beast. Oh no,
right.
sorry, 4 gold. 4 gold.
Then you went strength potion,
which is 4.
Okay.
Yeah,
Court
it
beast.
works.
One hit the court beast.
So Ryan actually got 47 because he had 30 life. Whoops, I forgot to count the 30. So you got how much? Right, so you went Shug, prep, strength potion, court beast. Yep. Right, so you took.
60.
You didn't take any.
I didn't take any damage.
No.
Oh yeah, because it's shugged.
Yep. He gets 60.
Oh baby.
And yeah, I've been rumbled in the chat. I definitely saw that on the Reddit earlier today.
Really?
Oh wow, he's cheating.
Cheat.
No, I didn't know this question was coming, did I?
I didn't know it was on the Reddit. Damn it.
Markaza, I guess. We go to your answer.
I had Rock Cake, Destroy, Court Beast, Armored Zombie.
That's kind of what I went with as well. Like, actually, when I first went with it, I went Rock Cake, Fight Cauldron, Sour Brew. But like, that's another really obvious one, right? Glenn, you fucking you don't deserve that. Right. So in order of so Glenn gets 3 points for that.
Yep.
So that brings
Glenn
you up
cheats.
I'm so glad I read the Reddit.
so that brings Glenn up to a score of 9. Markaza, you scored 2 for that.
I've got the scores on the screen. Scores on the screen.
Okay, well I'll keep track too. And Ryan,
Glenn actually only got 5 in the quickfire round, by the way.
Did he?
Yeah. Everyone in the chat ruined me, so I can't count to 5.
So he's actually now on 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. We've got one more countdown style round before moving on to the final round, okay?
Okay, I'm ready.
Right, so this is another countdown question. Same rules as last time. You've got 30 seconds. And also, it's chapter 1, right? Yep. So the next question is, and your time will begin the second I finish reading the question out. So the question is, What is the maximum damage combo you can think of in 4 cards? Go.
Oh.
I think I've got one.
All right. Do. Diddle.
Diddle-a-da.
We got 6.
Boo.
6 at 5, 4, 3,
Diddle,
2,
diddle,
1.
diddle-a-da.
All right.
Boo.
All right. So that what did you get? We'll start with Glenn, since you got the most points for that last one. How much damage did you manage to do
I got 15, 20, 28.
without dying? Right,
Yeah,
28.
28.
Okay, so I imagine you went with. I know exactly how you did this.
Yeah.
Captain
Yeah.
Rovin, Death.
Rovin, Death, Skelly Champs, Ketzek.
Yeah, that's 28. That's actually.
I know there is one that's better, but
Yeah.
I couldn't remember it.
Yep.
And it involves the Morgul.
Yep.
Oh yeah, if you say so,
Markaza.
we can just assume that it'll deal 30.
Exactly, and you can see on my piece of paper, Rovin, Death, Skelly Champion, Zemo. So,
Okay, how much does that do?
depending on how many undead you have in your hand, it can do.
We're going to assume the maximum number.
Well, let's just assume you have none in your hand and you draw 3. That's 29. So
Okay, so minimum 29. And then
probably more,
maximum,
because you're gonna mulligan.
another 3, another 9, so 38.
Okay, Markaza, what did you get? I feel like these guys have had a lot more time than you to think about this in their existence of playing the game.
I was trying to do Death Touch Darts nonsense with Tokash, so I reckon I got to about 15.
Okay.
Handily lost that round.
Right. The thing is with these questions, they're really hard to make like actual interesting, meaningful questions. I think next time we do this, I'll have to get cards on screen, and you'll have to pick them like in Countdown, right? Like, so that's what we'll do next
I'll
time.
have a
and then
vowel,
it's who
please,
can
Carol.
find the best play.
I'm calling you Carol from now on.
So yeah. So for that round, we'll give.
Ryan 3, me 2, Mark 1.
Yeah, you got. So Ryan 3. So you're on 15, Ryan.
Yep.
Mark's on 7. Glenn, you're on 10. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So the final. This is where you can make lots of points, right? This is where the tides are gonna turn. Like every quiz game ever, right? They have their structured rounds, and then there's complete bullshit round at the end. Like every quiz show is completely flawed and ridiculous, because the final round is always the nonsense one, and it doesn't matter what your previous score was. So this is this round, right? We're gonna start with. Do you think it's right? So there are 5 categories here, and you're gonna pick a category. Now, obviously, if somebody else has picked that category, you cannot use it anymore.
Go lowest to highest then.
Yeah,
Give
lowest to highest
Markaza the first choice.
Okay, so Markaza, you get to pick from one of 5 categories, and you're gonna answer questions on them. We'll say well, actually, I'm gonna tell you what the. Okay, basically, you have to name as. No, wait, hold on. Because I don't want to give the information to you. But
Just give them the topics, that's it.
We'll have time.
That's right. Just give me topic. I don't think I'm catching up unless you're giving me like 8 points a question.
All right. So your topics are. I've got it written down here. Yep. Okay. Beasts, diamond cards, undead, cards that reward health, or cards that grant base attack. So either reward health or something like Elvarg that gives you base attack.
Let's go cards that give base attack.
All right. You have 1 minute to name as many cards as you can think of that grant base attack. Your time starts now.
KGP, Full Darrock, Feral Vampire, Jad, Dagnoth Sentinel, Bilrak, Tormented Demon, Ogre Chieftain, Berserker Shield, Char, Worthy Opponent, Calfight Guardian. Okay. I've said Dagnoth Sentinel, I think.
Yeah, you have. You got 30 seconds.
Okay. Ozen must have one. Hope Devourer, does that count?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Hope Devourer counts. He grants base attack.
Leela?
Yep, she
Is that
counts.
the one
It's a shout.
I'm running out now, I think.
Got 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2.
Iglagor.
Nice. Nice.
That's 14
right.
I
So
got.
you got 15 from a possible 34.
14, because he said chieftain, not warlord.
Oh,
did he?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Feels bad.
Sorry, I have to
man.
kill your
Bad man.
dreams.
Okay. Now, I didn't write them down because I would need a production crew to do that. But we can, since I've got these other guys here and the chat, we can probably keep track of whether or not you said anything twice. I don't think you did.
No,
so.
that was fine.
All right, I'm hoping you guys aren't cheating by like figuring out.
Everyone check
what...
if Ryan's finished up Chronicle.
Okay, so
I've just actually closed Chronicle, so.
All right, Glenjamin, which category would you like to select?
Cards that reward health.
Cards that reward health. You have the same as last time. 1 minute to list as many cards that reward health that you can think of starting now.
Fledgling, lobster, cabbage, cully, sentinel, balls.
That's my card.
He's got health written in there.
No.
You cheater.
Ukthanki.
Correct.
The drunken dwarf.
Yep.
Full Tetsu.
I think you said that.
No.
No, I haven't.
8.
Did he run?
No, you didn't say it.
Unicorn.
Unicorn, correct. I'm a old
Shield
man.
Dome.
Shield Dome. Yeah, 2 life on that, fine.
What's the other area I'm on?
I know exactly
Lady
what it
Effin.
is. No, she does not reward health.
She does.
No.
Not as a drop.
No reward.
It's not reward.
She grants bit health. She doesn't reward health.
Sarah Brew.
Sorry?
Sorry, bro.
Brew.
Yeah.
Correct. 2 life reward on that. Don't look
Stamina
at the chat.
potion.
Oh.
Give him
I
that
think that
one.
was 11.
Give him that one. Give him that last one. That was
What
12.
did he say?
Stamina potion.
Alright, yeah.
Hang on. Right. Technicality, yeah. Let you don't give me Heffin, but you let Mark have Hope
Yeah,
Bearer.
but that was because
Yeah, but
his
that's
was
because
specifically said you can have the text on the card.
Yeah,
Oh.
like that yours was reward.
Glenn, you had so many more. Ariane has like 4 more that you didn't even hear.
Oh, I had them all in my head before we started, and then it's like, I said.
So you've been cheating. Glenn's cheated.
No thinking before you start. This is.
I've been keeping track. I say no, I haven't cheated.
I need to come up with a.
Well,
a
the way for it should have worked is Glenn gets 45 seconds and I get 30 because I've had longer to think, but I haven't been thinking about it, so it's fine.
Alright, so
What are the chapters left?
7 to win.
What?
8 to win.
you can choose from. The remaining categories are beasts,
No, thank you.
diamond cards, and undead.
Ooh. I'm gonna go diamond cards. I think I can name undeads, but I'm gonna go diamond cards.
Alright, your time starts now.
Kaizaj Kale, Barricade Court Beast, Char, Tetsu Katana. What are Ozans?
Oh, what are Ozans?
Shit. Wise Old Man and Lexicus Runewright. Who's am I missing? More brands, Calfight Guardian and Deadly Prey. And then we've got loads more. Balance Elemental, Tokash. Oh my god. Ladies A. Ozans. Oh, Kelly and Raven. Kelly and Raven.
That's from the chat.
I had my eyes closed. You can see it on the stream. Fuck. I don't know anymore.
Alright, well, you've got 7, 5, 4, 3, 2,
No.
1. Oh, go.
Right, that was.
Right.
Can I just say that was 14 because the 15th one you said Calfight Guardian instead of Queen.
Oh shit.
No, Calfight Guardian is a diamond.
Yeah, it is as
I
well.
believe that there is a diamond.
Oh my god,
on
no, you're
Calfight
kidding
Guardian.
me!
Queen and Guardian.
Oh man. How many was that then?
15.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Not bad, not bad. Alright, that was my quiz. I think the quickfire round was the funnest.
Yeah, by far. That was tough. That was really tough. I had to go proper concentration, try hard
It's
mode.
like creating the questions takes a lot longer than you'd think. Like that's
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't think Anne Robinson creates the weakest link questions. I think she just presents it, so you need a team behind you to do it.
if I do this next time, we'll just have more quickfire questions.
But yeah.
Rather than the other rounds.
Thank you very much for that interjection. That was good
No
fun.
problem.
Markaza, you ended 21. Glenn ended 22, and it's a fix because I ended with 30. So.
Looking at
Pretty
the
close
chat,
though between
everyone
you
else
two,
joining
basically.
Yeah, it was good seeing people in the chat trying to name the ones that everyone else was missing as well. That was good.
All right, next time we'll do more quick fire because that was definitely the best. Or maybe I'll have a buzz round where you all have words to say. Like,
well, I know mine.
Yeah, yours can be James from RuneShark. You have to shout that out. Glenn can say 04. And I'll go to whoever's buzzer I hear first. All right, we'll do that next time.
We named a load of cards during that quiz there, and I think that brings us nicely onto the card changes part of the show. And we're going to start off with an unraritied Amisket Mystic. Glenn, you're useless. I'd never hide you again. He sent me 2 versions of this card. The first one had Mortal written on the front instead of if you had less than 4 gold. And it also had no name. Now the second one doesn't have a rarity. Well done. So yeah, Amisket Mystic is being changed yet again from the other proposed to a 6/4, drop 4 armor. If you have less than 4 gold, gain 4 health. Lots of 4s going on there.
Alright, so can I start with this?
Yes, you can.
I think this is a cool change. I think the old Amisket Mystic, the 7/5 that would remove all your gold but heal you for 2 armor and the amount of gold you spent, was just never going to be used. Yeah. And this actually will be used. This is kind of like afflicted level. It's pretty good. You have less than 4 gold, gain 4 health. It's a nice condition on it for dungeoneering and constructed. I think it's a pretty value card. 8 life. It's kind of like a Cully. Not too bad in an Ozan deck. But I think the real question is, where did this come from then, Markaza? Like, why the change? I mean, I think I understand why, but go ahead.
Oh, I mean, so I'll take you through all 3 versions. The version that's in live is broken.
Correct.
Yep.
You can't attach healing to a uncapped stat, particularly an uncapped stat that also has damage conditions on it as well.
Yeah.
So it's busted as it is. The original redesign of Spend Everything was in the main was to unlink it from Goldzan completely, so you couldn't run it in that style of deck. But the rationale behind it was, if you're really, really rich as Ozan, who cares about gold value? It's all about slot efficiency, and it became the most slot efficient heal in the game, despite the fact it was the least gold efficient heal.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the reasoning behind it. It had a role to fill. It was, if you don't care how much your heal costs, this is the best way to heal. But the feedback that we got was sort of largely negative, and I think that the reasoning behind that is really sound. Is that it was too niche. It put it into a really, really narrow place where there was only 1 or 2 times you probably would use it, and the argument would be, would you run this, or would you just run Dragon Set, a different heal, cards that were a bit more flexible? So whilst I feel as if the old version addressed what it needed to address, it just put it into a place where it wasn't really usable enough, and it felt like we were just binning the card and just saying, go away, we don't want to have you be a usable piece of Ozan's kit. And Ozan has too few good creatures anyway, particularly in that mid-range level. He has good starter creatures, big creatures at the end, but then in that 4 to 9 health range, like, what gets used? Very little. So it would be a shame to bin off another one of those. One thing we've discussed about Ozan forever is this idea of a poor mechanic. Is it a keyword? Is it not? And actually, we found in the room when we were talking about it, it just made a ton of sense just to put a kind of numerical condition on it.
Yeah.
And just say, if less than X, do Y. And we've not got anything lined up for tomorrow, but actually it then prompted a lot of discussions about, well, what if RyanN has less than X cards in hand, do Y? What if Armor has less than X armor, do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, it feels as if, and other games use this. If anyone plays like Netrunner, huge swathes of cards in that game are gain X if your rival has more than Y. You know, there's lots of it around, and it's a mechanic that works. And it doesn't have to just be if you have less than. What if it's if your rival has less than? So it just felt like actually a design space that we hadn't really explored in any great depth.
I like that a lot.
And it feels like a kind of toe in to that, and let's see how it goes. If it gets run, well, it might get run because it's just not at the right power level, so it might never appear. But actually, I feel as if there's a design space there to explore, and it feels like it does what it needs to do. It gives Ozan a sizable heal against a condition, and it's a toe in the water of an area we can explore further as we release more cards.
Yeah, I think this card will kind of fit nicely into the space in Hopezan.
Yeah, that fledgling's going to
following
leave.
the Hopezan and Cully nerfs.
It straight up replaces fledgling, right? Like it's bigger, but the health reward is bigger, and I think it has a condition on it as well. But that's exactly the deck it'll go in. Like Hopezan already doesn't run any gold outside of like maybe your White Wolf and Kraken to randomly get Darox.
I was going to say that though. This is funny because you could think, oh, I'm fine, I've got this heal in my hand. Out of nowhere, they've played Numb into something. And there you go, you've already got too much gold. Like, honestly, I think a lot of the time you're going to find this card that you really want to play it, but you've played Double Crassian, you've played a White Wolf and a Chieftain, and all of a sudden you got 6 gold, and in that deck you're not running anything to spend the gold on anymore because full Tetsu you don't want to run anymore, and all of a sudden you can't use your Mystic, and you're like, what do I do? Like, I'm actually stuck. I really love this mechanic.
To remove all of your gold, even though you don't have anything to make cheaper. Then you play Amscat Mystic. There you go. Nice. Desperation.
I really like this card. It's a counterable heal, which works.
Given another really nice. Oh, sorry, Ryan.
No, carry on.
It's another nice thing about Ozan is that he tends to hoard. You see a lot of Ozan decks, if they do run any gold, they just will drop gold and just keep it because there's Dragon Set exists. So it actually encourages players to think ahead and get gold when they need it because what's more pressing, and you play the matchup a bit more closely than some Ozan decks might. But
that's a really interesting point to bring up too. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and so that's it. It felt like one of those things that actually, particularly for Ozan with gold, fits really nicely. And then it's just a broader mechanic to look at. Whether we do anything else with it, I don't know, but it feels like there's space to have a look at least.
Like, I'm not sure what the Amscat Mystic is for RuneScape. Like, my knowledge is not there for that. But like, does the Mystic only help poor people? I don't know what's going on. It doesn't matter anyway. But like,
it does now.
Yeah, it
exactly.
does now. Whatever it is. Like, I like that you mentioned that it brings it up for perhaps like decks that do run gold, especially low level decks as well, where you just play the gold game because there's nothing else to do. But actually, like, if you want to run this efficient heal, then you can't have all that gold. So that's an interesting way to bring it. But I think currently, like, I think this card's really, really strong, actually. I think it will fit right into Hopezan. I think that's going to be, like, now that Fledgling is gone, this is going to be, like, I think this will be played a lot.
This is potentially the card that brings Hopezan back up to being a top-tier deck.
And you're definitely going to run Donation in your aggro deck now.
Oh, baby. Yeah, get rid of Black Marketeer. You want to give them gold now.
Pyramid Plunder, and they'll be staples. It's pretty funny.
But yeah, I love this card. Like, this took over as my new favourite. I think Cully was my favourite at the time because I think you actually nailed it with that change. And I think this one is, again, so good. People say it's really strong because it's an 8 health heal, whatever. It's hidden behind 4 health, so you've got to kill it first. And then it's hid behind a title. And then it's 4 health, 4 armor, so it's not as efficient as an 8 heal. So, I don't know. I think this is absolutely fantastic change.
Like, you get armor either way, right? But, like the idea, I think, like, yeah, against some aggro decks, like, the fact that 4 armor is armor and not health might be relevant. I think most of the time that probably won't matter. But it will sometimes. And it's certainly good for the final fight. You really want to go. I think the card's very, very strong.
I really like the idea you brought up about this whole extra depth to the game that it brings in, like basing cards on if you have less than or if your opponent has less than. I really, really like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to mention. I've always liked the idea of cards that have a condition that depends on what your opponent's doing. Like anything that introduces like thinking about what they're gonna do, which is in Chronicle, that is interaction. Over your like planning over your 4-card chapter. Like I think that's one of the biggest criticisms of Chronicle, if you like that the interaction isn't always there. Like it's very obvious in Hearthstone, right? Or some other card game where you play a card, they play a card, you play a card, or you have a turn, they play it. Like you can see it happening. There's interaction going on there. I think there is interaction in Chronicle, but it's very like planning with contingencies and thinking about what they're going to do. Any card that encourages that, like for example, something you mentioned, Markaza, was if they have X number of gold, if they have a certain amount of gold, or if they have a certain amount of armor, like that I'd really love to see go into Chronicle.
Yeah, Chronicle has poker interactions.
Absolutely, that's absolutely it.
So it's anything that makes you think about what they've got or assess your own hand makes our interaction stronger in exactly the same way, like with poker, any game you play blind.
Yeah, there's a lot of bluffing. I mean, there's one game I played is a month or so ago against Tankatine, and he was running at the time this RyanN deck that ran Lexicus Rune Write with double asphyxiates, and I was running an AP stacking Raptor deck, and he got his Lexicosar, so he had 2 asphyxiates in hand. But the way he was playing that game, I knew he would try and hit my Jads or something at the end of the chapter. So he was going first,
So
but I gambled. I played a Jad slot 1, and he missed it with both of his asphyxiates.
Oh.
Right.
That's
That's the kind of bluffing that's in the game.
Like people do like to put archmages and cards like that later on. Sometimes, like I will sometimes go, well, I'm quite far behind. I need to go for the ambitious slot 4 archmage, and yeah, that's definitely stuff that happens. I think like poker's a really good like for those that don't know, poker is a card game that obviously has a lot of like you can play that aggressively, you can play that defensively, you can bluff, you can there's a lot of strategy in poker that people might not necessarily realize.
There's a ridiculous amount.
I think people like Unforgiven in the chat will can testify to actually how much thought there is in that game, and Chronicle has comparisons to that as well, and I think it goes perhaps deeper than because obviously poker is just about numbers. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, but I think it does, and I think that's a great comparison to bring up as well.
So yeah, that whole mechanic is great, and I know Interjection wanted to know about design philosophies behind each class potential. So
yeah, okay. So
do you want to ask that?
I thought I don't want to interrogate Mod Markaza. Like we're not just here to ask him.
No,
questions.
exactly.
What I would like to do is have a general discussion about a topic, right? And we all chip in ideas, and Markaza can add his Jagex-ly insights. Which I'm sure will be very interesting, but I don't want to
so wise.
I don't want to.
This is the question was more to get us going with it because it is a good question.
So what this is obviously design philosophies, and what I mean by that is for example, Ozan, he's the thief, right? He has a theme going on with
stealing everything.
Yeah, stealing. That's one of his themes. Gold theme. That's another theme that he has, and there was another theme that I have written down on my phone.
Discarding. He trades cards for stuff.
Yeah, he does. That's it. Cheating as well. Like he doesn't do anything in the normal way. Like he cheats a lot. That and discarding. I think absolutely it. So that's the card. Like tying stuff into that theme and balancing and creating cards. I think is really interesting. Like I think I wanted to talk about. Where are we on this sheet of paper? Design philosophies for each card. So yeah, what is the thought process like? When you consider, because I think it's very easy for me to just look at a card and go, oh, that's really strong. Oh, that's not very strong. But when you actually sit down and try to make a card, you're like, how do I make a card that's like not too strong, not too weak? Like
Fun
making
to play,
something,
yeah.
it's really easy to assess it once you've got it there. So to an extent, I think could you have a computer randomly generate cards and then you just sit there and assess them and eventually in the same way that monkeys and typewriters, you'll find some how do you? Not that Jagex does that, but how do you guys come up?
You've
with
seen the
that?
typewriter room. I mean, it's a really interesting question, and I could go on about this for ages. So you'll have to stop me if I just run on. But one of the things I think is a really enjoyable challenge about the game, and one of the things I think we all enjoy, is that we don't actually, from a design philosophy point of view, is we don't have a template. So I'm not saying the Hearthstone guys did this, and I'm not saying that the Elder Scrolls Legend guys did this, but if you wanted to make a 4-mana card in either of those games, you could always look at Magic and say, right, okay, what are the stats on this? And then you have a sense from 20 years of watching games of Magic being played, this is how this thing works. And when we go in to do a design, and we say, okay, we need a card that does this thing, we have nothing to lean on. There's nothing that I can look at in any other card game in particular and say, okay, I know how to get to design a card that always appears in Chapter 4 and does this job, because Chapter 4 is a concept that doesn't really exist in other card games for the stars. So from a philosophy point of view, it's a real challenge. So one of the things that I'm really big on is I like variety, and we've got a brilliant data team at Jagex. And one of the things they've put together for me is an archetype analyzer, which uses data to pull in not just the individual decks being used, but it aggregates. So I can actually, by tweaking sliders, actually get a sense of the broad archetypes that are being used in the game. And so you get a feel for, at any given division or any given level, the variety of decks that are being played. And I can tell you that Raptor has a couple of strong decks, but isn't very varied, whereas actually Morvan has more variety, but none of them are particularly as strong, and stuff like this. And so when I'm looking at cards, and when I'm thinking about cards, I'm thinking, okay, how can I and it will vary character by character. So for Raptor, I'll look at Raptor and say I'm not so worried about power level because he can always lean on the archetype he has now. But how can I give you more ways to play him? I think one of the reasons that Raptor appears and then disappears out of the meta periodically is that occasionally his deck that works doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he has to go away because he has nothing else he can lean on. Whereas most of the other legends have a different variant they can lean on, or over time have been able to build in different directions. Like RyanN pre-nerf was just the all-time chameleon. Every time we thought we'd addressed the problem cards in RyanN, she just pulled in different cards. Like Pirate RyanN was something we just didn't see coming, and there it was. It was just the best thing going.
Well, that and then some, yeah.
It took a whole season to realise that deck exists. I think Musha, I'm going to credit him as the guy who thought that up.
Yep.
But it took a whole season to come to fruition. So I just think nobody really saw it coming. Like I didn't start.
In the same token,
building blocks were all there. Just no one had put them together.
In the same token, Ogre Brute was not used in closed beta. Out comes open beta, and everyone uses Ogre Brute, and it's the most broken card in the world. Not that much. Not it wasn't. It wasn't meta defining like it was.
But that speaks to not having a template, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Not only do we not have a design template, is that you guys are learning what cards are good as they go. Like Hope Devourer was not a thing for a long time.
Yeah,
it wasn't. Yeah, that's true.
You know, so from a design, from a philosophy point of view, I suppose it varies per legend and it will depend. So Ozan will be an example, something I mentioned earlier. He has no mid-game creatures at all. So everything you do with Ozan is cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So from my point of view, I look at that and see, okay, there is a gap that I can fill. So if we release cards for Ozan, it would be cool to give him some mid-range creatures that offered him some new play style or some different way of doing what he was doing, possibly. So I tend to look into gaps at the moment because I came into the game after kind of the shell was already in place.
Yeah.
And so it will vary character by character depending on what I think they need, and then per legend we're focused on giving each legend a flavour. So you won't see weapon building outside of Linza, by and large.
Mm-hmm.
But then, how do we thicken out Linza's ability to build weapons? Because at the moment, obviously things like Bartek's Anvil and Artan's Workshop, you can see really clearly we presented a direction by which you could build weapons. And currently that's being a bit undercut by the nature of Tetsu Katana. But you guys have worked out the better way to do it is just get a really big weapon and make it bigger.
Buy one.
Yeah.
Buy a big one and make it even bigger.
Exactly, it's more efficient to do it with gold and just buy a big weapon. So there's something that we can maybe look to address. Like, how could we make it more interesting for you to take a small weapon and make it massive? Yeah, how can we make that more efficient? How can we make that more exciting? Stuff like that.
So I think for anyone who's forgotten what the original question was, we said what is the thought process when considering new cards or making new cards? And I think that's really interesting that you look for a gap. I think Mod That Jim mentioned this on the previous Jagex live stream. Yeah, where they perhaps introduced Cerberus and Lava Dragon, something like. Well, let's focus on Cerberus, right? What does it do? Well, it's supposed to be ramp, right? And it gives a bit of gold on it too, something like that, or health. Yeah. And but it was just being dwarfed by other ramp cards and saw no play. So what you're saying is when you come up with new cards is that instead of just here's a card, here's its effect, you actually look for things that aren't in the game that could exist, and cards that will actually be interesting and are new and fresh. That don't already have other cards filling their role. I feel like that's the best and most effective way to make new cards. So not necessarily ever thought about it like that.
And that's something that I'm trying to get better at as well, because Lava Dragon and Cerberus are both me. That was the old school cards we put in were the first round that I sort of concepted out and then brought to the design team, as opposed to kind of seeing once completed and then did balance on. And someone put a question in the Reddit earlier was, where do I see balancing mistakes? And that's what I look at as a mistake that I definitely made. I was really cautious. I didn't, when I first got this first round of cards, I didn't want to do anything that was obviously power creeping or some crazy thing that might not work. So I played it way too safe and released cards that actually didn't push anything in any direction. And that's something that I would hold my hands up and say that's my mistake, and something that I now, having learned, really look to address, and will always try and find gaps. So at the very least, if something is a bit above the curve, a bit below the curve, more to the point, at least it has a space where you can explore it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if anyone is trying to think up new cards for suggestions, that's how you do it. You want to look for stuff that doesn't necessarily exist in the game yet, rather than making better versions or alternative versions to things that already do. I think that's an interesting point.
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier. It's in future, if there was going to be when there's going to be expansions, you wouldn't really want another equivalent of a KGP.
Yeah,
because then it would completely discourage a lot of variety, because
if you have
deck with AP.
Any like KGP, even like in future expansions, I have a feeling that Jagex will never be able to make another card that does what KGP does, because KGP, if you can run more, like for example Kaizaj, that kind of left the game in a way like that affected things hugely, and if you could just add another like KGP equivalent that perhaps had the same kind of downsides to KGP, like the same kind of drawback, it's still going to be power creep, because every single deck will benefit from unconditional base attack. You can't add another one of those. You'll never be able to add another one of those, right? Like unless you can't run KGP in the same deck. Go ahead.
We'd have to fundamentally. One of the my sort of semi jokes or me being a pain at work is I don't like to talk about base attack. It's creature mana, and the problem with creature mana is that you don't spend it. So if we printed a 3 health equivalent of KGP with like a discard a card or a similar negative effect, when you're on 8 base attack, you don't care. Yeah. Because and so the reason that Fledgling probably got the hardest healing nerf is it was 6 health on a free body. You just don't care when you've got 8 base attack. That's free healing, and it was why we addressed strike in the way that we did, rather than like controlling damage or whatever. Is that we had to make you pay mana for the action.
Yeah.
Does that make? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So like in Hearthstone, in Magic you tap out. In Hearthstone you like just use up your mana.
Exactly. So we literally were making you tap your attack to strike.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you had to pay a slot effectively to strike, and there was interesting interactions with things like Relism's Balm and stuff like that, which made it more interesting, but it was getting you to spend your creature mana in a sense. And the problem with you just can't do that everywhere. So we can't put exhaust on every card in the game. So
yeah, like I was thinking this the other day, right? I was thinking, oh, Jad's so strong, or Cully's so strong. Can we just write exhaust on these cards? I was thinking, but like no, because then you just run Relism's Balm in every single bloody deck, right? And it'd just be silly. Like everything would be so homogenous as well. But I do think like that is really interesting. Once you get up to that point, yeah, you don't tap out.
So exactly. So one of the things. Oh, sorry, Glenn. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, with like the exhaust change. Like, did you guys see the Relism's Balm combo coming? Then
should it exist? I think it's the other one.
To be that popular.
We talked about it. We talked about it at length, because basically the way that we did exhaust was we obviously set your base attack to 1 temporarily. And it brought up a whole conversation about the nature of temporary attack in the game. Is temporary attack base attack, or is it a top-up attack on top of your base? And what we came to was actually we wanted the Relism's Balm interaction. We wanted those 1 AP interactions, because it's a much more interesting game if you have those weird interactions. Oddly, it closes doors to other stuff, but other stuff that doesn't exist yet. So it's not a huge problem. But we definitely then we started thinking of temporary attack as its temporary base attack, and that's kind of very much in the thinking now. It's sort of cemented in. So your temporary base attack is 1, and so you get that Relism's interaction. So that was something that we instantly spotted when we talked about it, because the original conversation was just about how can we make you pay to strike in every case, and then from there it was like, oh, okay, actually, well, does that interact with Relism's? Oh, it does. Okay, that's even more interesting. Okay, so now you can do this, this, and this. And it opened up different ways of building decks. I think like RyanN Strike, I don't think exists without Relism's Balm, so it doesn't exist without Exhaust in the same way that it does.
It's much stronger with Relism's Balm, at least in the testing I did,
Yeah, so that was kind of where we looked at that. So the trouble with base attack is because you don't spend it, is once you get to a certain level, good rewards on small creatures are free. So it's finding a way to balance that. So I would go as far as to say as I can't see a situation where we print another general pool card with a base attack reward on it, because you'll just find a way of getting into base attack decks.
Yeah, exactly that. Bundy does make a point though. What would you think about maybe having a limited base attack game where you can only gain if you're under X, Y, or Z? So similar to Relicums in the way that.
What, like a card? Do you mean like a card that says like if you have 5 base attack, gain 1 base attack?
Well, no, more if you have 5 base attack, don't. If you're under 5 base attack, gain 1, because then late game you do care about it. Late game you do care. You can't actually activate it unless you play something that's exhaust you or something like that. Basically,
that's really interesting. Like that's a way to curve it up, right? Like Or like anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, that's the way when the game was originally conceived. That was the kind of idea behind it. Is you would curve up naturally through. You get you kill your KGPs, and then cards like Void Brawler and Leah all existed in that window between KGP and Jad, and there's that sort of smooth curve. But obviously, you guys have found ways to just cheat the curve beyond belief.
Tormented Demon is a great card.
It really is. And as Jad has taught us, body size is no defense for a card if you want the resource enough. So I've had conversations with Jim where I've said, do we put a negative on every single card with base attack? And that's not something we're necessarily implementing, but we're talking about that sort of thing all the time as our understanding of the game grows.
I absolutely wouldn't. I actually think that's exactly where that could go with base attack gain, and I thought that might be where you would take it. But another way is, you mentioned cheating the curve. Like, something I want to get onto later, I don't know, maybe we should do it now, but like cards like Sergeant Slimetoes and Save Spot, like that have these big ramp things on them, and that you just cheat the curve, right? Like are they kind of stopping the game from being played in the way it was originally thought to be played? Like you're supposed to gain some base attack, curve upwards as you go on into these bigger and bigger creatures, but you don't do that. Like, Sergeant Slimetoes is enough to just reach into this massive creature on chapter 1. It could be like Ogre Warlord, or you could then go, I don't know, Tormented Demon into double Jad, and you have this ridiculous chapter 1 that is like, surely that's not how the game was supposed to be played. You're supposed to curve upwards, and I feel like to an extent that's why gold decks don't, like gold generation decks that want to buy base attack from Nastroth or something like that, Amulet Fury, just don't compete with, I'm going to ramp into TD double Jad. Well, like, obviously, naming 4-card chapters is not necessarily the best way to talk about the game, but like, the point is there, right? Gold isn't as good as just cheating with the Sergeant Slimetoes or something like that. And the game's not being played the way perhaps it was envisioned initially.
I think the answer to the question is definitely yes. The game is not being played as it was originally envisioned. I think that when it was, and bear in mind I came onto the team after the fact, but I did speak to Jim about this today when I saw the question on the Reddit, I think. I asked him directly. I said, do people play Chronicle how you thought they would play Chronicle? And he said, no, but that's not a problem. Because the minute we gave the game to the players, it became your playground. And I think like 1 AP RyanN was kind of the end of the concept of this kind of linear quest where you track towards the final fight, and that has been iterated out through our internal playthroughs. And the more you guys play the game, the more I'm interested in giving cards that have interesting interactions. Like Necrovarus was a card that I suggested, a mechanic we put in because I wanted to see if people would try that interaction. And I think probably at the moment it doesn't quite work because Gravecreeper's not there and ally interaction in Venescula isn't there, and there's more we can do. But cards like that, like the Morwenna change, that's all about seeing if we can that's all about seeing if we can give you something that's slot nothingy, like draw 1 basically, draw 1 and put a huge negative effect on the card that you're about to kill. But can we give you enough tools around that to then make interesting decks where it's not really about that linear upward flowing quest line anymore? It's about how can you manipulate what's there. I mentioned Netrunner before, but the Chronicle often reminds me of Netrunner, which is a game I recommend everyone plays. It's brilliant, but it's that idea of when you're building a deck, the best decks just do all sorts of wacky cheat stuff, and we've just kind of put the tools in there and let's see what you can find.
Yeah, me and Glenn were talking about this earlier when we were talking about the idea of a curve, and I brought up the fact that it's not a curve. Like this up and down spiky mountain that, like, you get your ramp, you hit the big thing, and then you're a little bit higher than you were before the ramp. So that's one big spike, and then it keeps going all the way through the entire game. And I don't know, sure, the game was meant to be a story where you build up. Like, it shouldn't be, you start off on your adventure, you kill this little goblin dude, and then this massive beast appears that you take down in the form of Hope Devourer. And it's like, whoa.
And you're referencing, obviously, KGP into Hope Devourer, which leaves you on 2 life and is completely possible. Like, it's just silly, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and you do that in some matchups. Like, some. Like, against Raptor, maybe.
But that's what I mean. Like, that's the old idea of the game, I'd imagine, would be to kill the little creatures, then the medium creatures, and then the big creatures. And that's just not the way it works.
Absolutely. Hope Devourer is still going to be a thing.
Yeah.
and rightfully so. Actually, but now that it's 15 life, you can't KGP into it. Anyway, go ahead.
You can.
We rolled out. We were digging up old builds the other day, and there's old builds of Chronicle where when the players the legends jump at the end of every chapter. and every chapter has the kind of the final fight arena. There was an earlier build where you had a final fight at the end of every chapter, and you would hit each other once. So the game in that version was really about that ramp, because you had to, at the end of every chapter you had a battle, so you're always thinking AP strike, and that didn't work.
I imagine that wouldn't work at all.
But the kind of that sort of indicates the thinking early on, and through iteration and through play, it just turned out the game was much more interesting.
Okay.
And in the internal alpha, instantly people did it. One of the things that was most broken in the internal alpha was that Darren Lightfinger used to make your next
support free.
Was your next support free, wasn't it? And that was when Jad used to strike. Jad used to. No, not Jad. What am I thinking? What's the demon that strikes? Tokash used to have double strike on it with no weapon removal.
Yes, it did.
The game was just a complete race to see who could get this combo off. But that was the way people played it from minute one was, how can I cheat what they want me to do? Because they were the best decks immediately. And so that's kind of what the game has become increasingly.
I feel like we've gone down this tangent far enough, and I might as well finish this question here. So, like, what I was thinking is stuff like Sergeant Slimetoes, stuff like Num, stuff like Crawling Hands,
Draenor.
Draenor, all these ramp things, right?
Yeah.
Should they be as powerful as they are? I think, like, obviously Jagex has already started balancing the game around them. They don't look like they're going anywhere. Nerfs, like the heals, are being changed, for example, on Dagannoth Sentinel, which if you couldn't ramp into it, maybe it should have a 5 life reward. That seems completely adequate to me. But because you can just ramp so quickly into it with the cards that I mentioned, like, it shouldn't have the health reward. But, like, is this, like, these ramp cards, should they... Well, what do you think of those? Like, is there a world in which you can see Jagex, like, really, really, like, perhaps nerfing them in a way? Like, I know, obviously, you can't make Sergeant Slimetoes a 3-1 weapon because Giant Spider exists, but, make it that a smaller weapon, Crawling Hand not as effective, or have some drawback to it as well. Like, just cutting the ramp out of the game a bit so that AP decks do have to curve up. Because if that happens, then surely Gold is becoming, like, a more, I might just buy my base attack now, or something like that. But obviously then, I don't know how compatible that would be with current aggro. But what are your thoughts on, like, just nerfing across the board ramp?
I know from a new card point of view, Draenor and Slimetoes make it very difficult to introduce new ramp cards, because anything above them is busted. Like Gorad, the first suggested change on Gorad, where it was double his attack as ramp. Yeah. If you just kind of run some rough sums that aren't great, but like Draenor is a 4 heal and a 4 ramp. Gorad is a 4 health loss for an 8 health ramp. Yeah. So the arithmetic shakes out either way, and the instant response to Gorad was, he's completely broken, and he was really strong, but you can see that there's not much scope there to make anything stronger than Draenor in terms of net health effect.
Well, I think there's a few of us. I'm one of them. I do actually think Draenor could probably do with being toned down a little bit.
I think that.
Oh yeah, completely. And it might be that at some point we have to do that, just to give us space to do different things with ramp cards. I don't think there's necessarily, and I mean the other thing to consider as well is there's other ways to ramp your deck that might not currently exist in the game. So it might be that that's an area we could explore in the future to give you viable alternatives to Slimetoes and Draenor. But yeah, I completely agree that if you look at something like Slimetoes, which on 3 base attack is a net no health loss, isn't it? Something like that. No health loss on a 3C weapons, you can reach into 6s. I mean that's super efficient. Really good.
Yeah, and even on 2 base attack, or even on 3, like 2 base attack, you have this weapon, you can now 2-hit kill a 10 health creature.
The Kale lesson is that weapons are so flexible. That card, I haven't spoken to the guy who designed it, but if I had to bet my mortgage, it would be, I'm going to kill Kale and I'm going to kill 2 creatures with 6 health. But of course, you can also snapshot, you can also kill a creature with 10 health. Like the flexibility of a weapon is something that is massive. And Slimetoes is a great card, and so is Draenor. Not that there's so I completely see where you're coming from. I think they're right up at the top edge of the power curve, and I know this because it's very, very hard to make anything that sits with them that isn't busted. So we'll always keep looking at these things, but at the moment, it's not my main cause of concern. It's not. There's other things that I know are a bit wrong that are higher on my list.
Yeah, but either way, right? Interesting to talk about, and thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
For doing so, being honest.
So The last thing I was going to say...
charge, Ryan.
Yeah, the last thing I was going to say about the card changes is we're getting new cards.
Yeah.
On Monday, I believe it is.
Well,
should be Monday, assuming all goes well, yeah.
What, so new cards, as in Clairvoyance and the other ones?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
nice. And also... no, okay, we can talk about that. But I just want to briefly cover this section, because I think people will want us to, is... Jagex is putting in... or changing a lot of cards with rarity values, mostly sapphires and a couple of emeralds to the basic set. Now, when I initially saw this, as you probably saw my post on the forums, I was not particularly happy about that. I saw no compensation was being given to those who had, who actually had those cards, and now they're going to, other than, you can recycle them. But I thought, that's not good enough. I opened these cards at full value, I paid money for my packs, or maybe I spent a bunch of time investing into getting packs, like doing quests and making sure I get all that gold for 20 victories or something, I don't know. But like no compensation was being given, and that annoyed me. And I worked out using my packs simulator that this changes. So for those that are wondering, my opinions on this, right? So it changed the amount of cards you would need to, or the amount of packs you would need to open to complete the entire collection, was reduced by 8 packs. And the shards value that you would get from disenchanting all of these cards, if you had all of these cards, was equal to about 6 packs. So the net value lost was 2 packs if you had a complete collection, and if you had every single one of these cards. So I felt like Jagex ought to be giving everybody 2 packs or something like that. But then the more I think about it, actually no, because the cards you're changing, in reality land, nobody crafted these. Nobody gives 2 flying fucks about them. They're all useless pieces of crap. That are like they might as well.
There's a few good cards.
Right, there are a couple. Right, Calfight Worker, Cabbage Goblin, Flash. Like, okay, fine. There's a few good cards in there, but there's so many bad ones that you might as well recycle. If I was a free-to-play player, they wouldn't be in my collection. Cabin Boy, what? No, Chain Shot Cannon. Like, nobody crafted these cards. Why is anyone getting upset? They're all completely useless except for a few. And I think actually, just you can recycle these. You're gaining some shards that you otherwise wouldn't have had because you didn't recycle them. I mean, if you did recycle them, well, that's because they're bad, and now you're going to recycle them anyway. Like I really don't think it... Like, if you're getting upset over this, I don't see why. Like, they're not good cards. If it was, like, actual good cards, then fine. But that's my stance, and I want to put that out
I understand,
before we start talking about everything.
I understand why people are getting upset, and the only thing I would suggest is we need a date, like an actual day where... this is when it's going to happen. Because, to be quite honest, I've got Goblin Flash Mob in a couple of my decks. I've got a couple of these cards. I'm not going to recycle them yet. I'm not going to recycle them yet. I'll recycle them about an hour before they get changed. So, realistically, I think as a player base, we need an exact... Obviously, you might not know yet, but we need an exact kind of time. Like, this is going to happen. Make sure it's done.
I'll just jump in at this point. So, this is something that we never would like seeing negative sentiment on the forums at all. It was something that... Full disclosure, we have a refund system that we put in. It's not comprehensive and it doesn't allow us to do the perfect answer, which is just refund you for what you have. So we were left with 3 options basically, which was flat shard drop to everybody, make the cards refundable for a week prior, like at full value, which we can do before they change their rarity, or what we were initially suggesting. The middle suggestion is completely abusable because you can still get them out of packs, and they effectively become a blank sapphire that says just craft the sapphire that you want. Couldn't do that. And really, for the amount of shards that it was, Conra, myself, and one of the producers were talking today about different options, and we're looking at changing it to a shard give out, because whilst, in my personal opinion, not the opinion of the whole team, it was, like you say, Interjection, quite a strong reaction for cards that aren't seeing a ton of use. I completely understand that ultimately, if you did craft them, there is an opportunity cost to that. You didn't craft something else because you crafted that card. And so the frustrations that people were feeling were real, and they came from an honest place. They didn't feel like they were just trying to grift extra shards. So we're going to talk again on Monday about getting the exact solution in place. But in all likelihood, it will not be what was put on the forums in the first instance.
Okay, because I was thinking, like, to create that solution, you have to spend dev time doing it. And I think a lot of people would equally like this, thing that gives them the shards. But also, Like, I would just prefer Jagex to spend that time deving the game, making features that are actually
chat spec mobile. Get on it.
and that's an opportunity cost at our end. Is that the reality is it is dev time. It's something that doesn't exist at the moment, and we'll have to. There'll be man hours put into doing this. So I mean, it's all trade-offs, but I think you guys put so much effort into the game. We don't want to feel like we're taking anything from you, and I think that was, even though it wasn't universal, I think there was a sentiment there that we were.
My opinion on it is, I think the game as it is already is extremely generous with its reward system.
I completely agree.
I mean, I bought packs at the start, but I haven't needed to buy any. Like, I want to put money into the game to support it because I love it, but I haven't needed to buy anything to improve my collection, because I'm earning copper, earning plat at such a quick rate, and then on top of that, we then had the daily rewards come in 5 days ago, and I just think people have got to realise, well, hang on a minute.
Yeah, I agree.
We're getting thrown a lot of free stuff here already.
Like, I currently have 100,000 copper. Like when the next expansion comes out. Oh, sorry, Jagex, I have all this money saved up. I'm not going to spend anything on your game. But yeah, like, you get so much for free. But I think, like, really the frustration comes from, you're taking things away from us. Like, it's that initial reaction, and then you go, like myself. Initially I was a bit jaded by it, but then I went back and thought, all these cards are terrible. What was I upset about? I think just in the moment I wanted to use my pack simulator for something actually.
Perfect. But yeah, that'll be coming sometime next week. Oh, carry on.
In the chat, we don't have all the cards. I've got nowhere near a complete collection.
Nowhere close. How many diamonds do you have? 20 something? Scrub.
19.
Scrub.
I think I'm 1 or 2 away. Anyway, no, I'm 1 away. A wise old man. It's the card I've not crafted. But like, the next bit coming up, new cards. The only one we know about is the one Merchant told us about, which is Clairvoyance. Which, for those that don't know, is a 0-cost support. It is a spell, and it will say gain gold equal to your rival's base attack, which is really cool.
It's RyanN.
RyanN does have that gap, right? We're bringing it back to this. What cards have gaps? RyanN needs gold. Haunted Soul, the gold was gone there, and you need a way to replace that, because RyanN finds it tough to buy all of her supports, especially in like the 1-attack decks that don't want to, play Flash Mob all the time, or or even Mimic, take all that damage, or don't have any way to kill a skeleton warrior or something like that. So I really like that that's now going in, and I think again that card does something based on what your opponent's doing, which I think is excellent for Chronicle, and I think more cards like that should go in, like I've mentioned before. And I'm not going to ask you now, Markaza, to spoil any of the cards, but maybe you have been given permission to tell us one or two, or all of them.
Unfortunately, not. The patch notes will be out on Monday. I mean, I can give you kind of a broad overview. They're interaction-based cards, so they're things that are going to do something across the lanes, or for both legends, and designed, but they're all going in as starters. So they are, it's one of those things where I'm just trying to think how to word this to not have it come across as negative. They are new player cards, so I'm not necessarily. When they were conceived, they weren't necessarily all designed to like really push at the power curve. But as you say, with characters like RyanN, and the reason that we talked about Clairvoyance early was that there were characters where gaps needed to be filled, and there were decks, and still are, that needed soft counters that maybe we could put in interactive cards for that gave you some soft counters. Yeah. So there's a. I'll give you a name. There's a card called Zamorakian Recruiter coming, which I actually quite like the flavour on, number one. But
what
also,
class is it? Can you tell? Or is that?
That is a that's Gen Pool.
Oh, okay. All right. Zamorakian what?
Zamorakian Recruiter. But and in the context of what I've just said, you should be able to know what deck I was looking at when I drew it up.
I might have to look back at this before. I can't quite remember what it was.
Yeah.
But yeah. So what you're saying is they're not necessarily going to be the strongest cards, but they'll definitely have they have a place in the game for the reasons you've mentioned.
They will, and they will improve new player decks a lot, because new player decks often don't, for legends like a Venescula or an Ozan, don't want to be too passive. But the way we first set up the starter unlock cards is that the simpler card, the new player cards tended to be a bit simpler, tended not to have those interactions. So you could have a new player experience where the game felt very separate, and if you didn't know what the rival player was doing, as we discussed earlier, if you don't know what's in your player's hand, your opponent's hand, you can't read it, and so the game feels very separate. So we're trying to put some cards in there that make new players feel that interaction earlier on and start thinking about cards that do things to their side.
So they think about what their rival's doing. I really like that. That is spot on. I love it.
I can't wait for these new cards. They might not be if they're new player friendly. I'm sure they're going to have their place, but maybe not necessarily in the top tier decks. So maybe don't get too expectant as a player base.
Clairvoyance. I think that will absolutely see a lot of play. Some guy in the chat mentioned unreliable gold game, but like on chapter 5 when they have 8 base attack, woo, that's an Earth Blast. And
free anything.
Maybe like it's almost like 2 Divine Storms or something. Like, it's exactly 2 Divine Storms. Anyway,
completely right, and that's exactly what we were going for. Is that could we give you a way to refuel as RyanN? There's tons of ways of getting early gold. Ali Morris saying Mimic, Gnome Healer. You pick how you want to do it. But could we give you something that you'd actually a gold gaining card that you would mulligan out of your hand, something that you'd want to draw later. A way of refueling after your first Earth Blast. Can I go Earth Blast, Clairvoyance, Earth Blast if I'm running a tighter gold deck than I would be otherwise? Gives you more space for damaging spells, gives you more space for other stuff in RyanN. That was the thought.
This almost reminds me, and I said this on the Jagex Q&A, well, I didn't, I think Glenn or Ryan did, but it was my question, right? Like, I came up once with some cards that sort of had an effect based on what chapter it was. So, for example, one here is gain health and armor equal to the chapter number. So on chapter 1, that's no good. You only get 1 armor and 1 health because it's chapter 1. Like on chapter 4, though, that's 4 health and 4 armor. That's pretty good.
It's an Amascut Mystic.
Chapter 5, it's a unicorn.
Another one was deal damage and gain gold equal to the chapter number. So 1 gold, 1 damage chapter. Like, it almost reminds me of that. Clairvoyance almost reminds me of that. But like mine feel very, I want to say rigid. I'm not necessarily sure if that's right. Like, but game base attack feels like it just flows with the game and fits better. The condition is more like it's less arbitrary in a way. I feel.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But that really reminds me. These scaling rewards that that's cool.
Yeah. I think, and there's a few cards dotted around in the game. I think it's Ogre, I'm going to get this wrong, Chieftain, Warlord, whichever one does total attack +4.
Chieftain. Yeah. And
Chieftain
is champion, whatever that is.
Ogre Champion.
Scales too, yeah.
Ogre Brute, which was one of my overcautious ones, was another card that was supposed to do that, something that you picked up and played later, rather than the chapter 1, but I was too cautious with the body, but that was the intent there. I like Clairvoyance. I think it will see play, and I think it has an interesting role for a goal gaining card, where you chuck it back rather than keep it, which is unusual.
Oh, babe. Free brings up the point of death might actually see play. I can't wait.
Oh, wow.
You're on 9 base tech. Let me just Clairvoyance death. Bye.
Like, that can be, like, and even if they heal, right, you can tease out all their heals over the course of the game. They still get back up to full life somehow. Then you play death when they're back on 30, and, like, that's going to be so cool.
It's a really versatile card. It doesn't have an effect that you're going to know necessarily going into the game what it's going to do, and that's always good. It's always, like, more fun to have that.
Against 1 AP area, Clairvoyance is going to be no good.
Black Markaza is better.
If they're like, he's going to play his Clairvoyance in slot 1, then buy his death. Nope, I'm going to play Greater Demon. You've got some really nice interactions there.
Can you imagine hitting your Clairvoyance after they're strength potted or something?
Yeah, like you can try and think about, are they going to play Numb, Strength Potion? Yeah, that's really cool too.
Yeah,
I think what we've got next is some sort of card gaps that sort of we came up with. I don't necessarily know if we have time to go through those, Ryan, but I think they're really interesting.
No. We've lined up some gaps that each legend has. Raptor, we know, is quite, I don't know, empty, I want to say.
Can I, like, this was my like, the problem I have with Raptor currently, and whenever I try to build the armor deck, that, like, Jagex has said before, through Mod Merchant, that Armor Raptor, you're thinking about it wrong. Armor is not, like, you shouldn't think of armor as, like, a final fight win condition, like, where I've got all this extra health and I'm going to win and beat you up there, right? Like, you should spend your armor to buy stuff that gives you utility. Like, for example, You can
So
spend
things
your
like
armor.
War Tortoise, things like Assault, like you
So
use
top
the armor to
Ketem.
deal damage or
even
get
base
effects.
attack, right, on Tokta's Ketem, which
Yeah,
gives you
Ketem.
2 base attack. But
And
even
that's a
then,
3/6
I feel
weapon.
like it's just not enough stuff to spend it on. Like, I know obviously the gold generation thing in Raptor is there, but it's like spending your armor into gold, but it's not strong enough. And I know like that's probably going to be addressed. But like there's also some other gaps with spending armor that I think that like that really needs. And I feel like Raptor like really does want to build his base attack. He does want to win in the final fight. If you're building armor, that's not an aggressive deck. I mean, you can make it an aggressive deck, and I'd like to see cards, more cards like Assault. Maybe Assault needs to be a bit stronger. I'm not sure, but then something like Berserker Shield that says gain 1 base attack if you have 10 armor. Why not a card that says deal damage to your rival if you have 10 armor or if you've got this requirement? But also Raptor doesn't have a card that like increases his maximum health. Like something that I would like to see in Raptor is, spend 10 armor and gain some increase your.
See, that effect I think is far too niche with Morvan and Veneskia, and I like it staying there. I think it makes sense for both them legends. I don't think adding that mechanic to every legend just because they have a way that could proc it, I don't think that's a very good, clever
Well, I feel like every legend should have that, like interact with base attack in some way. For example, like I don't know, Ozan or some other class could spend max life to deal damage or something like that. Like, I feel like max life is a thing that could potentially. I see no reason why all legends couldn't.
That for me, the niche thing with Veneskia, that was her bringing into the game. I've said this on the Q&A last week.
Well, that's
her thing is health manipulation, and that's the way it should be. And Morvan, it kind of makes sense that he's going through. He kills these 3 monsters and he gets stronger, and he kills these 3 monsters and he gets stronger, and that made sense. The rest of it kind of was like,
yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
I don't know. In terms of,
things too. I feel like that would help his win condition a bit in the final fight, right? If I want to go to the final fight, I've got all this armor, but they're just going to play Ogre Warlord, right? Like, I feel like Ogre Warlord completely destroys that deck, and sometimes you see Armor Raptor come back, like, to do that final fight thing, but then swiftly go away again when everyone starts taking the Ogre Warlord back in, which is, to be honest, you've got no reason not to run that card. It's so good. Like,
well, that brings us on to the Q&A. So one of the only question that we've really got for the Q&A and really got time for is...
We've gone through a lot of them anyway.
Yeah, is talking about hard counters in CCG, and what do you think? I think mainly aimed at Markaza, and what is the thought process behind Ogre Warlord, behind things that are complete removals? I know we've seen nerfs to BKT, we've seen nerfs to Redbeard Frank. These guys have all gone away from the hard counter side of it, but we've still got some in there that affect mainly Raptor. Like, he gets completely crucified by them.
Green Dragon is rough. Yeah. I'm. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
In terms of the strength of opinion, but I think the team broadly agrees. I don't want to speak for everybody. I don't like them. I hate them. I think they're really problematic when they target specific legends. Green Dragon is a problem card.
Major Mary as well.
Major Mary is a problem card.
I feel like Ogre Warlord is more so than Green Dragon, but yeah, go ahead.
I mean, either or. I don't like Green Dragon because I think because exactly they end up doing the same thing. So I would like to do cleverer things with those cards long term. But again, there's enough other things that are busted above them in the list that we might not get to them straight away. I think to the point about Raptor giving him like things to do with his armor, I completely agree. Variety on Raptor is my biggest Raptor-based concern. Like, his win rate forever has been 50%. Like, that armor stack deck, or like whatever variant works in the current meta, he finds ways to make that work. But you have to sort of play in one way. The shell is not just like a 5-card shell; it's a 20-card shell.
Yeah.
And I think that's a problem. And going forward, variety in Raptor is just probably my top priority in the context of Raptor. But what will make that problematic is that if Raptor has lots of different ways of doing things, those armor hard counters will keep coming out. I don't like them. I would like to do a better job with them. That being said, weapon countering in particular is really tricky. Like, armor countering is not so much of a problem. You could take the effect off Green Dragon, and you could take the effect off Ogre Warlord, and damage counters armor. Like, there's an inbuilt
completely agree with that.
Back and forth there that kind of addresses that. So we could maybe target armor a little bit, but it doesn't have to be quite so painful. But Major Mary is an issue. Like, just, you spend. Why would you ever do the Artisan's Workshop Dragon Forge Bartak Anvil deck if at any given moment someone could just Major Mary it away?
I've done that to. I know Durando runs that deck, and I've done that to him a lot.
Yeah. And it's a kind of broad disappointment of Lindsay, really, is that deck doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because there's cards in there they're explicit, like make your small weapon bigger. There's no sort of subtle combo play there. That's kind of it's written on the card. And Major Mary just makes it all go away, and it's not great. The problem with that is twofold. If you take it away, if you take the threat of it away, does Weapon Lindsay just become completely unstoppable? There was a question on the Reddit, I think, about could we not print a bigger creature that's like removes 5 weapon durability? What we've found is that if you make a tech card on a bigger body, unless the effect is profound, like remove X, doesn't get run.
Look at Highwayman. Highwayman is the perfect example. Really expensive support, doesn't get run. It's a complete counter.
Exactly. Like bar fight removes 3 durability at the cost of the health you lose in the bar fight. So if someone has a big enough weapon that it's going to cost you all 3, that 3rd durability slot is damage to you. But people run it over Green Dragon. Not Green Dragon, sorry, Giant Rat. So, and over Calfight Emissary, which removes 4 durability. So you could, rather than bar fight, you could just Calfight Emissary, and actually you take more durability off the weapon at probably
three
No, it's 3 as well. It's just 4.
Either way, the point stands.
Yeah.
So what we found is that if you make a tech card massive, it's not a tech card. You can't run it because no one wants to waste their ramp for a tech they're going to use every 4th game. Like, decks in Chronicle are just made too tight to have space for that sort of thing. So it's a really interesting challenge. If we just took Major Mary out, what happens with Lindsay? Like, the knock-ons of that one change are really massive. So I think we have to be really thoughtful about how we do that. And I would, off the top of my head, I would wonder whether maybe any change to Major Mary would happen with an influx of cards, where maybe we address in a sensible way non-hard countering weapon gain, without saying take your weapon away, because none of us like it. I think I won't speak for everybody. I really don't like it, and I think it shouldn't be in the game, because so much of Chronicle is spending 4 chapters doing the thing that you want to do, and if someone can just play 1 card, it's why Tetsu Katana isn't great, because it's a hard counter for AP gain. Because you can just do, because you can just do whatever you like for 5 chapters, gaining your AP, and I'm going to gain 8 AP for all that makes any difference in the last slot, and defeat what it took you 3 chapters to do.
Yeah. That's especially true in Dungeoneering.
Yeah. So the long and short of it is, they need to be addressed.
So the message is they're on the target list, and
they're on my target list. But when my target list gets like below 2 sides of A4, then I'll let you know. So
good luck.
They're on there. They're going to be addressed at some point.
Merchant's in the chat saying he loves Major Mary Kappa.
Yeah, I think that's as good a place as any to end it out for today. Talk about Tetsu Katana for just a split second at the end there. That's the way we like to keep it.
The fair katana
of balance, indeed.
Yeah.
I played a great game on stream the other day involving that card, but we won't go there. Thank you very much, Markaza, for joining us this week. It's been great having you on.
I've really enjoyed it.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thanks, chaps.
You're welcome in the future. If you'd like to come on at any point, let us know. If we want you on, we'll be sure to let you know. I've not really got much more to say other than join us on me and Glenn on Sunday. We'll be doing a Sunday roundup actually this week. Glenn hasn't got cricket, so we'll be back and ready to go on that one.
And my announcement is I now have a job. So as much as I was streaming before, which wasn't particularly regular, will now be less regular. Or maybe it'll be more regular because I'll actually be going live on my days off. Maybe that'll be the case. And also my videos will probably go from being polished and scripted to live and not polished. So, it's just a facet of having less time. But then maybe not. I am a perfectionist and I really hate, I might as well script it. I'll spend so many times just re-recording, saying the same thing over and over. But I just wanted to mention that I won't be around as much in terms of, that kind of thing anymore. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Welcome to the real world.
Running out of money, I figured. So.
Yeah, that's it. I think. Anything else? Anyone?
You got anything to plug, Mark?
No, I haven't. No, I just work for Jagex. Play Chronicle.
Chronicle.
Perfect. Yeah, so I guess we'll see you next time.
Yes,
Thanks,
me and
Jack.
Ryan will see you on Sunday, and we'll see the rest of us will see you on Friday.
And this will be up on the Friends of Al-Kharid YouTube channel. If you came in halfway through and you want to watch the whole thing, there'll be a link in the chat to go and watch that. It'll be up in a few hours. But that is it from us. Goodbye.
See you in a bit.
So, yeah.
See ya.